You already are.
Have an app for that.
Already are. That's
They
the
say
thing.
you are what you want to be. I
Yep.
mean,
Pretty much.
the power of positive thinking.
Hell yeah, I'm tall and thin.
So, welcome to the broadcast.
Oh, it's playing.
Oh,
It
I thought we were doing a
is.
test.
Well, I can always edit out the first little bits, or not. I mean, there's something about the byplay and banter. But, y'all know me. I'm Cedar Sanderson. I'm the middle mom of the apocalypse. And our almost regular guest at this point, the lovely Rita. And then we have a special guest, new to the broadcast. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Hello, I am Alyssa Casto. That's what I write under. I also write as Julia Leaf, and I primarily write fantasy. I love young adult fantasy, and then as Julia Leaf, I write steamy, straight, and lesbian romance. And a little bit about me: I have 3 kids between the ages of 14 and 20.
And
Yep.
you do not look old enough to have a 20-year-old.
That's true.
Thank you.
I mean, the 14-year-old, we're pushing it.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, so. And I live down here, around everyone down here.
Yeah. So, well, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining me, because we still have, Jonna is still in Italy, loving Italy and not wanting to come home, but she will. She has to come home, miss her. And Courtney is off having adventures, and so it's left up to me to hold down the fort, the blanket fort in this case. And so I have gathered these ladies together here, and we thought we would talk about the sense of wonder, because Alyssa does wonder walks, and I'd love to hear more about the genesis of why you started doing those, because you're really starting to get some attention with them, aren't you?
I guess it depends on how you
Do you
perceive.
think it that way?
Do I think it that way? I think that people are starting to take the time to stop and look around them because of them. So in that capacity, sure,
That's
definitely.
awesome, though.
So the genesis of it was, I've had a really rough year. I've had a lot of really
Yeah.
big things happen
Yeah.
in the last year with real life. And so I've embarked on this whole year of healing and self-discovery, and it just stemmed from that. Just needing to get out and get exercise, but not wanting to actually exercise. And so whenever I went out, I was looking and just seeing what I could find that would pull my imagination and kind of ground me in the present moment and not on what was going on in real life. And it just, as a really cool perk of it, is that it also has helped me get back into writing more and to show up for the storytelling by just looking around and finding interesting little prompts, and then from there telling stories about it, because that's what it's all about, is finding the wonder and then using that as a prompt to create a story from.
And that is fantastic practice. I mean, not just for story building, and like anything else in life, the more you tell stories, the better you get at telling stories. But it's also, I think, a good way to kind of escape from reality a bit, which gives you more perspective on reality when you come back to it. And so I know that I find that when I go for a walk and get out of the house and get away from everything that's pulling on me to get it done right now. And if I can step outside of that and go chase bugs for a while, that's my thing. So, and I don't know about you, Rita, and how you find that escape.
Oh, I'm so busy, but I've always been odd. Like, I always imagined when I was a little girl, I wondered what other people's stories were, and kind of imagined whole worlds for them and what was going on with them. And it's funny because I think that taking time to wonder about things is something that people have a different perspective on than when we were all kids, because when I was a child there was no internet and all this, and I think that to go off on a tangent about this, I think that we lose something by not taking time to wonder about things, because there's the immediacy of the internet. You can Google things and instantly what the answer to a question is. I think there's something, maybe even on a chemical level in our systems that is bettered by the function of wondering about things over time. Because I remember when the internet came out, and suddenly I could when it became more popular to use, I started using it in mid-90s, and then I could, and when search engines came on, you could look up all manner of things and find out what the answer was. I think that there's something good for us about wondering about things and not knowing the answer, and just the mystery and mulling the mystery in your mind and turning that over. I think it is, there's some psychological function that we need that, and I think that it's something that's lacking in young people now, because they don't wonder about anything. They know they can look anything up, and I think that it's good for you.
And I think that when they can look it up, it's a quick over and done. So you have that little brain hit of dopamine of, okay, I figured out the answer and I'm moving on now. But that means that they don't have the time to really exercise how to think.
Right.
Or how to think critically, because a lot of the answers that they find on the internet, and I run into this with my child and Reddit right now, which is driving me slightly bananas, because he's like, oh, you don't know anything, and then he's citing Reddit.
Needs to die screaming immediately. I said it.
I'm like, would you like me to cite my sources? And he's like, no, I found this article on Reddit. And I'm like, dude.
It must be true if it's on Reddit. But the thing is, they
don't learn how to think critically, and because that takes time.
Well, they also feel like they don't have to remember things because they can always look it up again. You're not feeling like you have to bank up some cumulative knowledge, because you've got the device to do it for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of cheapens the way we function neurologically. But the truth is we're changing too, and you can't even ascribe good or bad to it. It's just what is.
Yeah.
So we need to adapt and everything. But I think that's brilliant that you kind of step back and made yourself go out and do something. How did you come up with the concept to do that? It's a brilliant idea.
It really came down to, I just needed to pay attention to what the present is. I tend to look toward the future and strategize a lot, but I don't tend to ground myself in the present. And I just reached this point where I was like, I need to do something, just anything, to not only exercise, but to really be present in the moments. And then from there it was like, look at everything around you. There are so many little things. Like if you look around the room, there are like grapes in a statue up here that have caught my attention, and instantly it's like, okay, well, why are the grapes there? What story could they tell? Why place it there? Why did the artist place it there? And I know it's out of frame, sorry.
And the other thing that's funny about that, I'm looking up there because I had sort of noticed them before, and they're almost placed on this little resin cherub that we're all looking at, and he's got a bunch of grapes in his lap, almost like they've been placed for chastity reasons. But this is Jonna's shop, and I can't see you.
Well, the cherub is wooden, and the grapes were just an accessory we added on. But he should be holding them up and eating them. His hands up in the air, but maybe we need to wire them up there or something.
I can't go up too high because there's a fan up there. But no, these are the fun things of you're noticing the little things. I mean, that the whole adage, and it comes across as really dusty and cliched, but stopping and smelling roses. But it's one of those things. that you wanted to do. Well, I mean, it's like the other day, I was walking around and I was taking part in the Bio Blitz, the nature challenge. And I was out and I was photographing as many species as I could get. And there's a flower in this area called perfume balls. And I think you're probably familiar with it. They have no petals.
Really?
So it's like, imagine like a sunflower or a chrysanthemum with just these central blooms. There are no ray flowers, so there's no petals. But when they were pointed out to me, because I had seen them, and I'm like, they're these little balls on top of these tall, skinny sticks.
Kind of brick red. Kind of brick red.
And they're kind of brick red. And I was like, what the heck are those? And I saw them from a car. And when you look at things from a car, most of the time you're going so fast, you don't have time to take in the details. And you just see it and you're like, what on earth? So it took me a few days to find somewhere I could safely get to them that weren't like on the side of a busy road. And by that point, I had already been told that they were called perfume balls, and they're actually a galliarda. So in the Indian, like the Indian blanket, the lovely red flowers that you see all over on the roads here in Texas, and they're in that same family. And I had been able to see them at that point enough to notice that they would be covered in butterflies and bees and moths every time I saw them. And they're named perfume balls, so I finally got the chance to actually get down close to one and smell it. And they smell like honey.
Oh, how wonderful.
So, and now I'm on a mission to find some I can collect seeds from so I can grow them at home.
I have a patch in my yard. You're welcome to come collect. The patch has gotten bigger and bigger, but one year we didn't mow forever. Like, okay, every year we don't mow forever.
That's good.
But yeah, but my yard, other houses around me do the green camp lawn thing with it, which I think is terrible.
Yeah,
Not judging you, but I'm judging it. But
yeah, no, I don't want to do that either. So.
But in the summer, usually like all the other yards will be dark and mine will just be millions of fireflies. And we have these tiny little fireflies that are so faint. They're almost like a flash of glitter or something. It's sort of like you can't even focus. It's so fast and so faint. And they're so small. But anyway, but my whole yard will just be, just shimmering with them because we don't mow that much and we don't treat the yard with a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
And anyway, but one year we had a few of those flowers come up and I loved it. I said, don't mow that, let them go. And then the patch has gotten bigger every year. So we've got an unmown, it's like a Brazilian on my yard. There's just no, wait, Brazilian takes everything, never mind. It's like a landing strip. Is that what you call happy trails?
Yes.
Anyway, this is vulgar.
This is life, and this is making connections.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing on in your Wonder Walks. Is you're seeing something and you're making connections, however improbable it may seem at first. But that's also what makes a good story. Are making those connections. I mean, before this, I had been struggling all day because Fridays I work until 9:30, and then I usually try to run my errands. And today I had planned them to be as efficient as possible, so I went out and I did them all, and I was fat at the house. And I'm trying to write a short story every week for a while, so I can get some production out there. And so I'm back at the house and I'm trying to write and not making much progress. And finally I set up to do sprints on Discord with Courtney because we could do that even though she's in another time zone and hours and hours away. So we're doing that, and I finally got into the story, and I had been trying to figure out where to go with the story because I'm a pantser. I don't plot. So I don't know, and then you find these improbable connections, and suddenly the story clicks, and you're there, and it's going someplace, and you're like, I wouldn't have thought about that when I started this story, but here I am. So, and that's the fun thing about it. But I mean, okay, so, and the Wonder Walks, and y'all are probably noticing the video's a little different, the sound quality's different, because I brought in my Mac laptop. We can do live streaming on the Mac laptop, but this is not a live video, this is pre-recorded. And we cannot record a video on the laptop. I don't know why. I suspect it's because it's elderly and it just can't handle that. I'm probably gonna have to upgrade my travel laptop. But I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to do this a different way. And because you do your wonder walks, you have the camera tripod to put a phone on. So we're recording this on my phone. And it was just one of those things of it just worked out really well. I mean,
Yeah.
we had that there and we were able to improvise and do it, which is great because
In a room full of creatives, we would have figured it out no matter what anyway. I mean.
yeah, eventually maybe. Well, if all else fails, I would have been like, okay, going back to my house to where my computer and setup is, because I have the ability to set up a pretty professional thing, and we'd sit at the dining table and have the books behind us, and it would look good. But we're like, we're here, we're doing it. So, and sometimes there's something to be said for that too. It's just the spontaneity of making it work. So, but the other thing I wanted to talk about was the power of daydreaming, because I know that's not really what the wonder walks are, but it's what it makes me think of. Is that not? I'm going to say lucid dreaming, but that's not what I mean, because that's a specific thing, which I can actually do sometimes. I don't know if either of you do that.
I've done it before. It's
Yeah.
been a long, long time.
Yeah. I used to have a lot of problems with nightmares. So, and rule of thumb is that it takes about 1 year of healing for every 1 year of trauma. So it's a long time.
Wow.
And I am to the point now where I don't have them as much because I've actually been out of the trauma as long as I was in it. So, which I've also learned that the rule of thumb is wrong because it's still not complete. So, but learning how to guide my dreams was something that was important to me. But daydreaming is different, because daydreaming is that we associate it with a little kid in the classroom staring out the window. And as a teacher, I'm sure you've never seen that.
I've never done that.
So you're sympathetic when a student does it in the class?
You know what? You know what? Honestly, I've never even noticed it, because I go in and I do my thing, and I am so eminently distractible that I have to keep my eyes on the prize. I've got my notes, and I've got my little dot on the horizon that I'm chugging along toward, and then I've had to really train myself to not take in what little personal drama somebody's having or not having over, but also, honestly, this is strange. This semester is the first time I've had a classroom that even has a window. And the person by the window knits, and he's just doing that. I respect that, because
that is a great way to concentrate in class.
Yeah, I take on information better if I'm doodling and doing stuff like that. So I approve of that. And also, forgive me, he doesn't knit, he crochets. And
Which is not quite the same.
no, it's not. But I'm a crocheter.
I can't knit. So.
I can do both, but crochet is more fun to me because I've been doing it since I was like 4.
Yeah.
But
Same.
but no, it's interesting. No, I just have to kind of go in with blinders and just keep on. The first semester, and apparently I can give a mean look.
I could see it.
The first semester, and I don't mean to be mean, but the first semester there was there were 2 students who were talking to something. I was like, "Excuse me, am I interrupting you?" And they're like, "We were just talking about the assignment." I'm like, and I felt like a jerk. So since then, like, if people are talking, being disruptive, I just go on, and anyway, what I will stare meaningfully at somebody if they're sleeping.
Does it wake them up?
Not usually.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
well, actually, what usually happens is somebody's like, do.
I've seen that happen.
But the whole. I mean, the weird thing is classroom dynamics is a weird thing. But
Yeah.
daydreaming, I approve of daydreaming. Maybe not during my class, but I like I said, I'm training myself not to take that on board, because it's unproductive. I don't want to shame anybody, and I mean, after that first horrible, incident where I felt guilty for years, obviously, I try not to. I try not to call people out on that because I know that sometimes we drift off. Sometimes we're tired. Maybe they're going through something and they need a momentary escape. But yeah, why don't we do daydream more as adults? It's almost like it's verboten, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, and I feel like it is. I mean, I feel like we are supposed to be, and I know that you're working on being more anchored in the present, and I get that. I really do get what you're talking about. But I also think sometimes we get our head down and we're working and housework, which is still kind of work, and we never take a chance, we never take the time, not a chance, although I suppose it is a chance, to look up and look at the horizon and remind ourselves of what we're working for or towards. And I think that for me, daydreaming is what landed me here in Texas, because I started dreaming about what life was going to be like and what it could be like and what was I missing, and started daydreaming about, oh gosh, what would it be like to have friends where I could sit down and talk, and realized that I had a lack, and adjusted the path, the rut that I was in, and kind of got out of that and went and readjusted my course towards the direction I actually wanted to be going in. And I think so that's kind of like when you do your wonder walks and you think about that sense of wonder, you make those stories. We also have to tell ourselves our own stories and explore our stories of where we are and are we where we want to be.
Oh yeah, I'm
So-
making a vision board.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that because I heard that when Meghan Markle was married to her second husband, she made a vision board with her and as a member of the royal family, and look what happened.
Wow.
So you know what I'm gonna do? And I'm not kidding. You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. I'm going to do a vision board with several things that I want to be components of my life, and I was told aim high.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is, and I'm about to be like working balls to the wall on more Mabel Mirkwood stuff.
Good.
In fact, I'm hoping to have a short story finished by the end of the month for her. But what I want is I want her to be like an HBO or Netflix series.
Yeah.
Because
I think she would
'cause
work well for that.
I have delusions of grandeur, but on my vision board, I'm going to I'm going to do a mock-up of a check from HBO for $1 million down payment for future series of
Yeah.
on the memo
absolutely.
line.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's my vision board.
That's a piece of it, right? For
Shoot for the stars,
Right.
settle for the moon. Yeah.
settle for the
No,
moon.
no, yeah.
You keep going. Don't just go. There's
Yeah.
so much more you can add to your vision
I want
board.
a galaxy.
Yeah. Just keep going with
Heck
it.
yeah.
That's
That's a
a
galaxy.
reason I write science fiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I am literally reaching for the stars.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I realized with my writing that I write people. I can't do the math to be an engineer. But that's fine because we can't all be engineers and we really shouldn't all be engineers. I love my engineer friends, but there are times that I need to be there to like feed them and remind them. So, but it's one of those things of, I think it's an important aspect, and I think it's something that, along with that childlike sense of wonder, we set aside the things, and it goes back to, it's a cultural thing, because when you become an adult, you're supposed to set aside the things of children. But I think we go too far with it. I mean, I think that there are children things that we should set aside. No adult should ever have a temper tantrum. And we have all seen adults have temper tantrums.
Yes.
And so that's a childish thing that, yeah, you should leave that in childhood as soon as possible, please. 'Cause
Exactly.
Teenagers having temper tantrums is also unpleasant. But we also set aside there's a C.S. Lewis quote that I'm going to butcher badly, but basically about telling fairy tales, even as an adult, it has an important role in, which is why I also write fantasy, because myself fairy tales that there are dragons and we can overcome them.
Mhm.
So, and that's and the thing with like writing YA or reading YA, because I know when I worked at the library and my boss, the director, asked me to set up a YA section because we didn't have one. We had a children's room and the adult collection upstairs, which was always a weird thing because I say adult collection and you immediately think things that are not just like books for grown-ups. Although we did have the adult Dr. Seuss books in our
Oh,
collection.
really?
We did.
That's impressive, yeah.
I was very impressed. I also put them up as high as I could in the upstairs collection. So no, children, have you ever seen them?
No.
He did like Lady Godiva.
Wow.
And it is in Dr. Seuss's art style. They are amazing. If you ever get a chance.
Oh, it sounds cute.
They are. They're super cute, but they're definitely very grown up.
Not for children.
Not for children, but they're in Dr. Seuss's style. So I was always afraid that we were going to have a kid find them, and I was like,
Mommy.
Parents are not going to like that.
Well.
But yeah, no, it's putting together the YA collection made me realize that a lot of people would seek out and read the YA beyond the age group that you would think.
Mhm. Oh yeah, definitely.
And I have some theories about why that is, but I'm curious what you find for your readers.
Yeah. So, yes, I do. For my young adult, mine tends to start at probably 14. I mean, I do
Yeah,
have
that's
younger,
about right.
but mine start at 14, and it's aimed for 14 to 16 as high fantasy adventures, clean high fantasy adventures.
And that's where my theory about why even much older adults will
Yeah.
seek it out
Yeah.
is because they're looking for, because there's a time and a place for a steamy story, and I'm
Absolutely.
all about that too, but it creeps in places where people don't necessarily want it. So they go to YA thinking that they're going to be safe here. It'll be clean.
Yeah.
It'll be what they want it to be.
Yeah, it's very
So-
nostalgic. What I have found in my experiences, especially like the 25 to 55-year-old women especially,
Mhm.
we just are looking for that nostalgia of going back into an amazing adventure that just completely helps you escape the reality of busy lives, always
Yeah.
home with kids and overwhelmed and
Yeah.
overstressed and worried about all of the day. But with these stories, you just get to completely step out of that for however long, even if it's only 5 minutes, you get to step out of it and escape.
Yeah, and that's I think that's what it is the escape. And it's because it was interesting to me as I was putting this collection together and bringing in books and learning more about YA as an overall thing. And I'm like, there's a lot of people, and it is usually women, that are reading these that are much older than you would expect to be reading these, and then new adults, like
Mhm.
college-aged
Yep.
ones. That hadn't even started when I was doing that. Kim came in the tail end of my time at the library, and we definitely were going to start a separate collection. We were little tiny libraries, about the same size as the one here in Tinytown.
Mhm.
So we didn't have space for it. But I was starting to bring in some of those books because we had a readership for them. And I think I think there's a certain power to that of, we get to a certain point in life where we think we're done with adventures, but we still kind of want to have adventures.
Not me. Not never. No. Because, like, you're talking about how, as an adult, that you stop daydreaming, and I haven't stopped daydreaming,
No.
and that's probably why I'm so in tune with the younger adult
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
high imagination and it. Sometimes I feel silly because it makes me, kind of appear kind of flighty because of the daydreaming, but as a part of who I am,
Mhm.
and I love that, and yeah.
You know, I have a daydreaming habit. It's a routine, and I'm embarrassed to admit that. I call it my stupidity tax. Because every so often I'll drive through the little stab and grab market in town and buy a lottery ticket. And I mean, it's $1, and I'll like go, oh, it's the drawing's at 10, and it's like 7 o'clock. I've gone through this $1. I just paid $1 for 3 hours of fantasy. What would I do with? I know that that's so silly and
because
and
again,
foolish.
you literally, it's like buying a movie ticket.
Yeah.
Only you've just bought a ticket to your own imagination.
That's it. I could do that for free, but I'm not that smart.
But
it-
you are, because you write.
But I do that. I say that. I said, this is, I'm spending $1 for 3 hours of fantasy. And that's my way. I especially do that if I'm on the phone with my mom when I drive through that place, because it's embarrassing, because she thinks that's gambling and sinful. And anyway, if only it were really, really sinful, but anyway, you just gotta take what you can get. Anyway, but if I win that lottery, it's hookers and blow. Anyway, see what I mean? Yeah, maybe it's best I don't win. But anywho, yeah. Me and Hunter Biden. No, not really. Not at all.
Ew.
That's so not fun. Not my idea of a good time.
No.
But-
I will say that my thing recently, we driven down to Archer City to go to the range down
Mhm.
there, which is a really nice range. So if you haven't
And
been,
I think it's a pretty drive. I know that
It is.
everybody doesn't find this scrubby landscape appealing, but I think it has
I do.
a rugged beauty. It's
Mhm.
a landscape of survivors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love that.
Well, and that's exactly what this led to, was me looking out of the car 'cause for a change. I wasn't driving, I was a passenger, which is kind of nice. I mean, I don't mind driving, because when my husband and I drive together, it puts his good ear if he's a passenger, so we can
Mhm.
actually talk. But it's nice to sometimes be a passenger so I can look out the window. And it was so pretty out there, and I got home and I actually hopped online and was looking up properties out in that area. And then I had been, a couple weeks back, I'd been over to Copper Breaks,
Mhm.
so over by Quanah.
Yeah.
And that, I found that area really, really pretty. That rugged, broken country is just, it's beautiful. And I don't think I'd want to have a home there and live there. But to have a little piece of property to go hunting on and go camping on, so that was my little daydream of,
Yeah.
ooh, let's look in to see if there's land and how much does it cost.
I'll
and
buy
what
you
would I
some
have
when I
to
win
do.
the lottery.
Oh, that's so kind.
Yeah.
And we'll put up a
I'm very
nice little,
generous.
and we'll put up a nice little cabin so you can stay
Yeah.
on it in comfort.
We could have a bunkhouse.
Yeah, there you go. Do sleepovers.
Yeah, that's it.
But and that's the kind of thing that it gives you motivation in life and goals. I mean, for a little while there, I'm looking at my baby is going to be 18 in just a couple of months, and I'm like, and then he's planning on finishing up with school and going into the military. So I'm looking at a year and a half, 2 years to empty nest. And I'm like, my entire adult life has been wrapped around these children. So I'm having to rediscover my own identity now. And you're not there yet. We
Oh,
talked
I'm
about
already starting
this.
to get there, actually,
Yeah.
because my middle is getting ready to graduate. It's only going to be me and my youngest.
And it's a change.
It's such a
just having
change, yeah.
just having my youngest home has, for the last 3 years, has been
Yeah, mine's
Such a
going,
change.
and my youngest is going up to back home with his sister for the summer. So it's just gonna be me all summer.
Oh wow,
So
you
I'm,
get a
yeah,
taste.
yeah. So
Yes.
it's gonna be a whole. So yeah, the transition is starting, and I can already see it happening.
Naked on the recliner.
No exploration.
Oh.
I want to go.
Oh, yeah.
Like Pompeii and Herculaneum. We got
Wow,
that.
yeah, that would be a fantastic trip. Yeah, and that's my thing, is I'm looking at, well, I want to do stuff. I want to go hiking, which, I mean, drag you along with some of that, because my husband is like, I don't really want you out there by yourself.
No.
And he's, I'm not objecting to him being overly concerned about me, but it's, we have to look at where we want to be. And I know you just recently went through achieving a huge life goal, but I don't think that you're done with, because you became a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, the teaching thing was kind of a late arriving goal, but
that's the way life is, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we reset these things.
The weird thing is the day that I went to talk to one of the faculty at the English department, after I found out that I was being failed out of the nursing program, which made me so proud. It's wonderful to fail. Actually, it really did suck. But it turned out to be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although the person who failed me on a subjectively graded pass-fail thing was and it was just like, you fail this, you're out of the program, and it was just so rough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more complex than that, but it was one of those things that this one element, it didn't matter if I'd had 100 average in the course, I would have failed it because the teacher was gleeful. Now I understand that feeling, but I'm kidding.
Oh.
I'm kidding. I really don't like my students to fail. I feel like when my students fail, I feel like I failed them. Although I know that they're responsible for their own work, and I'm not going to just shoo somebody through who doesn't do the work.
Right.
But I feel like, I keep an eye and I keep a record on what they're doing, and if somebody's struggling with something, I say, look, I need you to come to my office. We need to talk through this because you need to understand what you're doing wrong here. This is going to cause you major problems if you don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I think they get the sense that even if it's difficult, that they
But you were decent.
that I'm in their corner and that I'm trying to help them improve all their future outcomes and everything. But it was devastating. It was a gut punch, and I just kind of in a daze. I just kind of stumbled over to the English department, and I walked into the office, and there was a lady at the copier, and I said, I'm in the nursing program, and I came back to school middle-aged and full-time, from a full-time job, and I've just found out I'm being failed out of the nursing program. But I don't want to go back to work. I said, I don't want to stop school. I want to finish a degree. Do you think the English department would take me? And she's like, well, why don't you come to my office? And we went in there and we talked for a bit, and I started crying and everything, and it was drama, and I mean, not slinging kind of, but it was it was intense.
You were
but
emotional.
But that first day, she said, Rita, I could see you teaching, and now she's one of my colleagues.
That's
It's
awesome.
unbelievable. I didn't even dare to dream that I would get a job at the university but after, I stayed, after my undergrad, I stayed and did a master's, and then I was teaching as a graduate assistant, teaching assistant. I had my own classes, my own syllabi and everything, and it was just sort of like, when she said that to me, it was like, really? And then I would go around, I would go to the bookstore, I would go to the IT department, and they would be like, and this was when I was an undergrad, they would be like, what class do you teach? What department do you teach in? I would be like, I'm not a teacher, I'm a student. But anyway,
You made it happen.
it was, well, the thing is, there were all these things that kept telling me, like, people perceive me as a teacher.
Mhm.
So, why fight it?
Yeah.
But anyway, but it's funny how it happened, because there's so much irony. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about myself the whole
No,
time. But
yes, you are.
We're
when I was
invested.
when I was a little bitty kid, I started school in 1970, and I was 4 when I started school, and my brother started, and we went to a school that didn't have a kindergarten, or if they did, I didn't know anything about it. We didn't go, and my brother had started the year before, and his birthday was in August, and so when he started, he was, wait, forgive me, I was 5. Forgive
Okay.
me. I was 5.
Yeah.
And when he was gone, he was already 6 when he started,
Mhm.
but I was 5 for a couple of months and
Yeah.
everything, so I was very young. And but he had gone to school, and I just imagined it to be this wonderful, magical place. School was amazing. He got to go there, and I was going to go. And when I found out about school, I talked about it all the time. I just talked about all the things I was going to do, and I was telling stories about school and everything to my mom and everything. I couldn't wait. And then the day came, and I finally was going to school. So they let me go to school as a little kid. And I go in, and Mom got me the little matching outfit. I had a satchel that matched my red, white, and blue dress with a big sash, and all. It was fabulous. It was like Sydney Brady looking, not me, but the outfit and everything. It was all on point. That shit was matching. And I go in, and I came home from school. school. And my mom said, well, how did you like it, Rita? And I said, I'm never going back.
Oh, no.
And that was it. I was done with school forever. That I had all I needed to know. I had enough. That was not for me. So now we've laughed many times over the last decade about how they just can't get me to stop going to school. So apparently there was something I was fighting all this time, and it was wrong. But anyway, I needed to find the way that I fit with it, and I don't know that I would thrive as a high school teacher. If something happened in the economy and I had to take a job teaching while I still owe money for school, then I will bear up and be the happiest school teacher, in a high school. But I'm so thankful to teach where I do. I'm just really lucky, and I find what I'm teaching interests me, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I can imagine it would. I mean, I know, was listening to a guy talk to the Texas Master Naturalist training class that I'm in, and he was talking about vertebrate animals, and he's like, I'm not a mammologist, but I guess he was studying alligators, which is definitely not mammals, but it was interesting because he kept talking about this field of study that he was presenting to us, and he's like, this isn't what I do, but it was what he was doing, and he'd been doing it for quite a while. He just never quite reconciled himself to, this is what I do now. He didn't feel like he was an expert, even if he had a doctorate. He'd been doing this for like 20 years, so it was like, and that kind of disconnect, I think there's a lot of people that find that disconnect of, well, I'm doing this, but I don't feel competent at it. I don't feel comfortable with it. It's not really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that daydreaming helps us figure out sometimes what we do want to do. So a lot of us find that we're taking jobs to make ends meet that are definitely not a dream job. And then sometimes we manage to find out what we do actually want to do.
One of the things I show my students when I can, I don't show it to my literature students because I can't really, in a way, can't justify it. But all my research writing students, I play them the 23-minute speech of Neil Gaiman, giving a commencement speech about it's called Make Good Art. It's on YouTube, but he talks about that. He talks about moving toward your goal. He talks about taking jobs to make the ends meet. And he says that, every time he ever did that, he ended up feeling he sold his soul or like he compromised his vision, and it was not taking him closer to his ultimate goal, which he called his mountain. And he says, move toward your mountain. And I'll show that to my students because hopefully it motivates them. It makes them recognize that I will part company with Neil on that because you got to keep the gas on. You got to keep food in kibble bowls.
I was gonna say, as a mother, there's been some stuff that I've done because the babies have to eat.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I mean, I can do without, but I never wanted them to have to do without. So there's definitely been some times that when I was working as a librarian, I was also working as a cleaner at the same library because they needed somebody and they were willing to hire me. They couldn't give me enough hours to make me full-time, and I was actually making more money as the cleaning crew than I was as a librarian just because of how the town structures were set up. So, and I am by no means, cleaning is just not my thing, but I did it, and I did it well because I needed the money.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you gotta do that.
Well, you know what? The other thing is, there was a periodical. I don't know if it's still being published, but I had this idea from the time I was a small child that I'm a writer. I've always been a writer, just very badly and not very diligently, or habitually. But in the 80s, I bought a book. I was thinking this magazine called The Writer's Market. And it was a periodical that gave all of these places all of these different journals and magazines and all of these publications that took articles over the
Right.
transom.
Right.
So you could write your article or
And
whatever it is
submit it
and
somewhere.
submit it
Yeah.
for consideration for publication. It gave information about what these different journals paid or periodicals, whatever they were, and all of that, price per word and
Yeah.
what length you need to send in and all of that, those kinds of things. But in the back where there were these little, there was like little things you could buy, like at the back of a comic book, little products. And one of them was a bumper sticker I should have bought because I've quoted it so very many times, but it said, "Writers don't have bad experiences, they just gather material." And
Yeah.
this is what I think when things get really, really crappy, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is going to go in a story,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
especially
yeah.
if it's somebody behaving badly, you're going to die very badly in one of my books.
Oh.
That's satisfying.
That's the scene I've just been writing is someone, well, he's not gonna die, but it's very bad.
But the exigencies of life do, intervene. You have to do what you have to do, and it's not all fun and games. It's not all pleasant, but I do think we're gathering material at all times, and it's all stuff. We're collating data and filing it away, and then we can pop it back out and stick it in some place where it will be a tasty morsel later on.
Yeah. Well, and for me too, the other thing I find myself doing is I find myself looking into the future and kind of gaming out scenarios, and I'll write those into stories. And I think for me, it kind of gives me a map of, okay, this is how I want to act if this happens. Then the scene I'm specifically thinking of is in the story that I just started writing. It kind of attacked me while I was standing in the shower, as these things do. And right, but I wasn't gonna write this story. There's an anthology coming up from Raconteur Press called Your Honor, I Can Explain, and I wasn't gonna write a story for it because I couldn't think of anything for it. And so the story just came out of the blue and attacked me. And I had written years ago. I wrote a sweet Western romance, and I published it under an open pen name with Lillian Begley. So, like you, I've got the two pen names out there. And so this story is set in that same town using couple of the characters from it. But the opening scene in this story is this lady who's in her late 50s. She's been married for 40 years. She wakes up, can't find her husband. Okay, he might have gone to the diner in town to have an overnight cup of coffee when he couldn't sleep. And she goes looking for him and finds him, and he's passed away. And because this is me actually, my poor husband's reading this going, you're doing this, you're talking about me, aren't you? And I'm like, maybe.
Oh.
Because I know that my life partner is older than I am, and I'm going to come to a point where he won't be there. So I'm kind of gamed through this whole thing in my head of, okay, how do I handle this? Of what do I do? And he has a pretty strict DNR, do not resuscitate. And we've had to talk that through, and I've kind of tried to come to grips with the fact that he does not want me to do CPR. And so those are difficult things that I can pull out of me and put into a story so that, and I've done this a few times with things where I have actually come later to, okay, I need to deal with this, and this is how I'm going to do it, because I've already planned. I've made a plan. And that's
Like
kind of what I'm doing with this. I think.
You're healing through it already and planning.
Yeah, because sometimes that life is going to do things. And if it's inevitable, you can plan ahead for it, and you can start to heal even before it comes. I know
Feel from the possibility of it.
Right. Well, it's like my husband has dealt with the fact that his dad has had a serious medical issue for 30 years, where basically he could drop dead at any time. And after a while, that does weird things to you, where you know that someone's going to die, and then they just keep going. And so when we had a medical crisis right before COVID, his dad wound up on hospice. And so my husband talking about it was just like, I don't know how to feel about this because I've already grieved losing him. And now it looks like we're actually going to finally lose him, and I'm both relieved and sad. So it's yeah.
Human emotion, something.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It
so
really
complex.
is. It is, and it's one of those things that it's a really difficult thing to approach. I don't know if you know Amanda Flusting real well.
Mm-mm.
No, so she goes by Murder Kitten. So
Oh, okay.
you might know
I've
her
seen
better.
the name. Yeah, definitely appearing in everywhere.
She was a hospice nurse for a long
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay.
And we've had some really interesting conversations about death and how we all approach that, because it is one of those things that comes along with life in general. But what she's gotten to see the reactions to it from all parties, and getting to listen to her talk. Now, she's somebody I'd love to get on, Amanda Flusting.
Okay.
I'd love to get her on an episode of the broadcast
Because
and
of her
interview.
nursing?
Yes, because of the hospice. And that's not what she's doing now, because they are working on having a child.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I'm really excited for that, because a small Amanda is both adorable and terrifying at the same time. The concept there. That's another one that you can. I approached having children with a lot of research, as I do. So I had read a lot of books, which did prepare me for actually having children. Not totally. They don't come with the user's manual.
No, they do not. It's a whole lot of, I shouldn't do that one again.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. But no, I think we need to be able to daydream, and we need to be able to chase our dreams, and we need that sense of wonder. So, but I think we will start to wrap this up. So I know that you're still working on the next Mabel, and you think you'll have that out soon?
I'm hoping that the short story will be done by the end of the month.
Excellent.
And then I'm going to be working on the next novel. I've got a sweet romance series that I'm going to write this summer, I hope. No, I'm going to write it. I'm going
Yes.
to write it. But
Take the I hope off there. You're going to do this.
And it's going to be, I've already got it kind of mapped out. But I've or plotted out, I should say. But I need to. That will be under another name. But anyway,
Will be announced later, I guess.
Yes.
Yes, we'll come to that later. And so what do you have? What was your last thing out there?
Well, the last thing out was, probably, so it would have been Moon Spirit, book 1 of the young adult high fantasy mermaid.
Okay.
I am,
And that's out of Alyssa Casto?
yeah, that's Alyssa Casto, and book 2 of the series is in edits right now with the editor.
Excellent.
And waiting to hear back from that, seeing how much I gotta change, but yeah, we're toward the end there.
Yeah.
And after that, probably do some more short stories. I love short stories, so.
There's nothing wrong with doing short stories, and then you can either put them out by themselves, or you can collect them and put them out like that. So there's lots of options.
Yeah, and then you guys always
So-
have some kind of short story collection going, so.
Oh yeah, no, we have so many anthologies going right now. I know, I had done a cover draft for Space Monkeys.
Mhm.
I don't know if you had seen that. I'd emailed it, but I wasn't sure it had actually gotten to you.
I haven't checked my personal email in a week.
And I
So,
understand that you're busy,
Yeah.
so we'll talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
That's why I
Because-
have like 15,000 unread emails in
Whew.
my inbox.
Oh my.
Yeah, I know those feelings. So, and as far as on my end, busy writing. I think the next story I have coming out is probably in Pinup Noir, and that's not coming out for a couple of months. So, but the Fantafly postcards is now available in ebook and hardcover, and we are struggling to make somebody at Amazon, understand that it is a book, not a stack of postcards. So yes, you can publish the paperback, please. Because it's been over a week and we're still going back and forth with them, and we keep getting form letters back saying, we only publish books, and I'm like, it's a book. But that's a whole other frustration, just life
Yeah.
of publishing, so. But thank you ladies so much for joining me to do this.
Thanks for having me. I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having me.
It's much more fun to do this together than it would be for me to just sit here and blather at the camera.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate
All right.
hanging out.